If you write about two characters in Florida, you necessarily you have to write about three very powerful characters, because the state of Florida is a very powerful character.
Novelist Randy Wayne White. In recent years, he's emerged as one of the leaders in the popular genre of Florida crime mystery fiction. He says he grew up reading Joseph Conrad, John Steinbeck, and Mark Twain, held a variety of jobs, and traveled the world before beginning a full-time novel-writing career in the late 1980s.
Well, I'd been a fishing guide on Sanibel Island for almost 13 years. I was a full-time fishing guide and did more than 3,000 charters. I was on the water 300 days a year. And in 1987, the federal government came to our little marina at Tarpon Bay, which I called Dinkins Bay in the books, and said, Tarpon Bay is now closed to powerboat traffic. Well, I was out of a job. And I had two young sons, 10 and 8 at the time, and I'm not qualified to do anything. I didn't go to college. And they came to us in January of 1987, told us the marina would close in March. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me.
White had been a travel writer for Outside Magazine and had even written a series of novels under a pseudonym. Now he began a new project under his own name, starring an unassuming marine biologist named Marion Doc Ford.
When I decided to write a novel, I wanted the protagonist, the main character, to live in the water. So when you live in the water, what do? And I love biology and natural history, always have, so he became a biologist, which is a great blessing for me because the research, I learned so much.
Beginning in 1990 with Sanibel Flats, his first few novels quickly established White as a writer with an environmental consciousness. But unlike some of his contemporaries, environmental advocacy doesn't always mean taking a political stand.
First of all, I don't know enough to preach anything to anyone. But I've also spent my life traveling. I've been in almost every third world hellhole you can think of. I've seen the worst places in the world, and the first casualty of a failed economy is the environment. It troubles me that a number of so-called environmentalists don't realize how important private enterprise is to the environment. If our economy fails, the environment's gone. Look at Haiti. That's an obvious example. Look at Cuba. Look at Vietnam. They're fighting back right now, trying to recover the economy. Look at Cambodia. Now, the other side is that if you make every concession to private enterprise, but the environment fails, it's the same thing. We all fail. There is a line there. And so I don't have a lot of patience for zealots on either side. I think they're closed books.
White's novels have sometimes been compared with those of the legendary John D. MacDonald. Both make extensive use of coastal and wetland environments. In fact, over the last century, a host of writers have used Florida's waters as settings for mystery novels, according to Rollins College professor of literature, Morris O'Sullivan.
All the early mysteries were about the water, the secret of the Everglades, Mystery Island, the Boyd Chums cruising Florida waters. We've almost always seen the water as an important metaphor for our life. It's part of what attracts us to it. And I think especially in Randy Wayne White, what he does better than almost anyone else other than John D. MacDonald is to find in the water and people's approach to the water a metaphor for the nature of society, and corruptions in the ecosystem become reflections of corruptions in our political and economic and social system.
Currently writing his 13th Doc Ford book, White lives and works in an 80-year-old house built atop a shell mound, once part of a temple complex of the Calusa, the powerful tribe who ruled much of southwest Florida in the years before the Europeans came. Although he's contributed to efforts to preserve the surviving archaeological sites nearby, the author admits he hasn't directly felt the presence of these ancient spirits.
I'm not a very spiritual person, but I think I'm pragmatic to the point where I find it hugely valuable and powerful to know that where I write, which is right there in that porch, that at that precise place, that for almost 3,000 years, people have been telling stories right there. People have been sitting around fires and telling stories and singing songs, and essentially what I do right now here, that's powerful.
Meanwhile, if a lifetime of travel and adventure has given White the bearing of a man with stories to tell, the success of his books has contributed to the satisfaction felt by one who's living his version of the Florida dream.
I grew up loving books. I love the way they feel, the smell, and the density of a book. You pick up a book, and there's an implication of great potential. I wasn't a good student, but I loved reading, and I thought if I could write a book, then maybe I could participate in that magic I found in books.
Novelist Randy Wayne White. I'm Bill Dudley. With funding from the Florida Department of State Division of Cultural Affairs, this report was produced by the Florida Humanities Council. Visit us on the web at flahum.org.